My stepmother called me the black sheep until the black sheep's company made the Forbes list and the golden child asked for a job. Growing up, my stepmother made it clear I was the disappointment. Her biological son could do no wrong. He got the college fund. I got community college and a part-time job at a coffee shop. Why can't you be more like your brother? She'd say every chance she got. He's going places. I worked full-time through college, slept 4 hours a night, graduated with a degree in software engineering and $50,000 in student loans. My stepbrother got his business degree handed to him on a silver platter and moved back home after graduation. I started my tech company in a studio apartment with 2 other developers. We ate ramen for 2 years straight. My stepmother didn't come to our launch party. She said she had book club. My stepbrother showed up drunk and told investors we'd fail within 6 months. 5 years later, we had 300 employees and offices in 4 cities. My stepbrother was living in my dad's basement, churning through startup ideas that never made it past the pitch deck. The Forbes article came out on a Wednesday. My dad called that afternoon, voice tight. "Congratulations," he said. "Your stepmother is very proud." She'd never said my name without disappointment attached to it, but sure, very proud. The email came Friday morning. Subject line, exciting opportunity. I almost deleted it as spam until I saw the sender. My stepbrother's name sat in my inbox like a ticking bomb. He wanted a leadership role, said his entrepreneurial experience would be valuable, mentioned family 3 times in 4 paragraphs, never once said congratulations, never acknowledged the article, just assumed I'd hand him a 6-figure salary because we shared a last name. I forwarded it to my co-founders without comment. They called an emergency meeting. "What do you want to do?" Reeves asked. I stared at my stepbrother's email on the projector screen. All those years of, "Why can't you be more like him?" burned in my chest. "Schedule an interview," I said. "Make it official." Valencia raised an eyebrow. "You're serious?" "Completely." My stepbrother showed up in a suit that cost more than my first car, probably bought with dad's money. He walked into our building like he owned it, shook hands with the receptionist, commented on the modern design. I watched from my office window as he waited in the lobby, checking his phone, confident. He thought this was a done deal. Family favor. Golden child getting another free pass. The interview panel waited in conference room A, 3 senior directors, our CFO, and me. My stepbrother's smile faltered when he walked in and saw the setup. "I thought this was just coffee," he said, laugh forced. "This is how we interview all candidates," I replied. "Please, sit down." For 45 minutes, we asked standard interview questions. His answers were vague, buzzword-heavy, empty. He couldn't explain basic business metrics, couldn't name our competitors, hadn't even looked at our website. "So," Valencia said, leaning forward, "why do you want to work here?" My stepbrother looked directly at me. "Family takes care of family," he said. "Right?" The conference room went silent. I smiled and closed his folder. "We'll be in touch." He left looking less confident than when he arrived. I returned to my office and found my stepmother calling my cell. 7 missed calls in 20 minutes. I let it ring. That evening, my dad showed up at my apartment. He'd never visited before. "Your stepmother is upset," he said. "About?" "The interview. Your brother said you humiliated him. We interviewed him like every other candidate. He wasn't qualified. He's family. So am I." Dad's face did something complicated. "You know what I mean." I did. I'd always known. "There's something else," he said, voice dropping. "Your stepmother's talking to a lawyer. About the will." The words hung between us like smoke. "What will?" I asked. "Your grandfather's will. She thinks there's grounds to challenge the inheritance clause. My grandfather died when I was 22. Left me his house in Vermont and a trust fund worth $2 million. My stepmother had been furious, claimed he was senile, accused me of manipulation. The lawyers had shut her down fast. Grandpa's will was airtight, written 5 years before his death, updated annually. The will was settled 7 years ago," I said. Dad shifted his weight. "She found something. Documents that suggest your grandfather made changes right before he died, when he was on medication." "What documents?" "I don't know the details. She hired Theodore Blackwell." The name hit like a punch. Blackwell was the lawyer rich people used when they wanted to destroy someone. He'd bankrupted a tech CEO over a parking dispute, made a socialite homeless over a dog bite, won cases that shouldn't have been winnable. "Let me guess," I said. "She wants me to settle. Give her part of the inheritance to make this go away." Dad's silence was answer enough. "Tell her no," I said. "She's my wife, and I'm your daughter. You can afford it. The company's worth—" "I'm not giving her a cent." Dad stood there, caught between the woman he married and the child he'd failed. Finally, he turned toward the door. "She's not going to let this go," he said. "Neither am I." The lawsuit arrived 2 weeks later. 47 pages of legal accusations. Undue influence. Mental incapacity. Fraudulent documentation. My stepmother was claiming I'd manipulated my grandfather during his final months, coerced him into changing the will, stolen money that rightfully belonged to the entire family. The entire family. As if my stepbrother had ever visited Grandpa. As if my stepmother had done anything except complain about the old house needing updates. I called my lawyer, Patricia Drummond. She'd handled the original will, knew every detail. "This is garbage," she said after reading through. "But garbage can still make a mess." "Can they win?" "No. But Blackwell's strategy won't be to win. He'll drag this out, make it expensive, make it public, force you to settle just to make it stop. I'm not settling. Then this is going to cost you time, money, and peace of mind. Bill it to the company account." Patricia was quiet for a moment. "This is personal for you. They've treated me like trash my entire life. Now they want my money too. Then let's make sure they don't get it." The deposition started 3 weeks later. I sat across from Blackwell in a conference room that smelled like expensive wood and old power. He was 60-something, silver hair, suit that cost more than most people's monthly salary. "Let's begin," he said, voice smooth as poison. "Tell me about your relationship with your grandfather." I spent 6 hours answering questions. He twisted every memory, questioned every conversation, made my grandfather's love sound like manipulation, made my visit sound calculated, made me sound like a predator who'd targeted an elderly man for his money. When it was over, I sat in my car and called Reeves. "How bad?" he asked. "They're going scorched earth. What do you need?" "Time to fight back." The next morning, I hired a private investigator. If my stepmother wanted to dig into my past, I'd return the favor. His name was Gabriel Torres, former FBI, recommended by Patricia. He worked fast. Within a week, he had details. My stepmother's spending habits. Credit card debt totaling $83,000. 3 maxed-out cards my dad didn't know about. Shopping trips to New York charged to secret accounts. A storage unit filled with designer clothes. Tags still attached. "She's desperate," Gabriel said. "Not evil. Desperate. What's the difference?" Desperate people make mistakes. That storage unit, rented under her maiden name, the credit cards, same. She's been hiding this from your father for years. Can we use it? Depends on what you want to accomplish. I thought about my dad showing up at my apartment, the exhaustion in his face, the way he'd stood between us, unable to choose. "I want her to back off," I said, "not destroy her." Gabriel raised an eyebrow. "You sure? Because Blackwell won't show you the same mercy." "I'm sure." 2 days later, I met my dad for coffee. A neutral location, public enough that neither of us could make a scene. "Thanks for meeting me," he said. "You're paying," he ordered. We sat in uncomfortable silence until the drinks arrived. "Your stepmother won't drop the lawsuit," he said finally. "I know. She thinks she's protecting the family. She's protecting herself." Dad looked old, sudden, tired in a way I'd never seen. "What do you want me to say?" "Nothing. I want you to look at these." I slid a folder across the table. Inside were printouts, bank statements, credit card bills, photos of the storage unit. Dad's hands shook as he flipped through pages. His face went pale, then red, then pale again. "How long have you known?" he whispered. "About a week. And you're showing me this because she's drowning, Dad. She's scared and desperate, and she thinks my money is the life raft. But it's not mine to give. Grandpa left it to me for a reason. He never liked her. He saw through her." Dad closed the folder, pushed it back toward me. "What do you want? Drop the lawsuit. All of it. Get her out of this mess yourself, and stop choosing her over me. You have. My entire life. Every time. Every choice. The truth sat heavy between us. I can't control what she does," Dad said. "Then tell her what you found. Tell her that if this goes to trial, everything comes out. Her debt, her secrets, her desperation. Tell her I'm not the one who'll destroy her. She's doing that herself." I left him sitting there with cold coffee and a folder full of evidence. 3 days later, the lawsuit was dropped. No explanation, no apology. Just a legal filing that made the whole thing disappear. My stepmother called once. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. "This isn't over," she said. "You think you've won, but family doesn't work like that. You'll see." I deleted it. But she was right. It wasn't over. The company kept growing. We launched in Europe, started an acquisition spree. Every success felt like vindication. Every milestone proved I'd been right to work, to struggle, to build something real instead of waiting for handouts. My stepbrother's LinkedIn updated constantly. New startup, new venture, new opportunity. Each one failed faster than the last. He'd post about lessons learned, growth mindset, failing forward. Then he'd delete everything and start fresh. I stopped checking after a while. Then, 6 months after the lawsuit, my dad called. "Can we talk?" he asked. "In person?" We met at the same coffee shop, same table, different energy. "I'm leaving your stepmother," he said. The words were so unexpected I almost laughed. "What?" "I'm filing for divorce, moving out next week." "Because of the debt?" "Because I've spent 15 years letting her turn me into someone I'm not. Because I chose her over you so many times I lost count. Because when I think about the look on your face that day we talked." He stopped, breathed. "I'm done." "Where will you go?" "I bought a condo downtown. Small place, clean start." "Does she know?" "I told her this morning. She's threatening to take everything in the divorce." "Let her have it." Dad smiled, sad and tired. "That's what I said." We sat there, 2 people who'd spent years communicating through silence and disappointment, finally finding something that felt like honesty. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said. "I know I don't deserve it, but I wanted you to know I'm trying. Trying is a start." He reached across the table, squeezed my hand once, then let go. "I'm proud of you," he said. "I should have said that earlier, should have said it 1,000 times, but I'm saying it now." Something in my chest cracked, not breaking, opening. "Thanks, Dad." The divorce took 8 months. My stepmother fought for everything. The house, the cars, the retirement accounts. She wanted alimony, spousal support, compensation for emotional damages. Dad gave her the house and 1 car. Nothing else. His lawyer was ruthless. Documented every hidden expense, every secret account, every lie. Turned her desperation into evidence. The judge was not impressed. Final settlement gave her the house, 1 vehicle, and $12,000 in cash. Dad kept his retirement, his pension, his dignity. My stepmother moved to Arizona, sent Christmas cards the first year. Nothing after that. My stepbrother stopped reaching out entirely, deleted me on LinkedIn, blocked my number, disappeared into whatever new scheme promised easy money. I didn't mourn the loss. Dad started showing up to things, company events, holiday parties, the ribbon cutting when we opened our Chicago office. He'd stand in the back, watching, trying to figure out how to be proud without being intrusive. It was awkward at first. Years of distance don't dissolve overnight, but slowly, over dinners and phone calls and uncomfortable attempts at connection, we built something new. Not father-daughter, not yet, but maybe the foundation of it. 2 years after the divorce, we hit $1 billion valuation. The press coverage was massive. Forbes again, Wall Street Journal, TechCrunch. Everyone wanted the story of the black sheep who built an empire. My stepmother called from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Congratulations," she said, voice tight. "Thanks. I always knew you'd do well. I told everyone you were going places." The lie was so blatant I almost laughed. "Sure. Your brother's been asking about you, wondering if there might be opportunities now that things have settled down. Tell him to apply through the website. He's family. So am I. He should have remembered that sooner." I hung up before she could respond. That night, I went through old photos, found pictures from my childhood, back when my dad was still trying, still present, found one from my college graduation. I'm standing alone in my cap and gown, awkward smile, no family in sight. I framed it, put it in my office, not as a reminder of pain, as evidence of survival. The company celebrated its 10th anniversary last month. 3,000 employees now, 8 countries, revenue in the billions. We threw a party, invited everyone who'd been there from the start. Reeves gave a speech about risk and trust and building something from nothing. Valencia talked about believing in people who believed in themselves. Then they called me up. I stood at the podium, looking at faces of people who'd gambled on a kid with a laptop and a dream. 10 years ago, I said, I was eating ramen in a studio apartment, convinced I'd fail. People told me I wasn't good enough, told me I should quit, get a real job, stop embarrassing myself. The crowd was silent. I'm glad I didn't listen. Because this, I gestured at the room, the people, the reality we'd built together. This is what happens when you bet on yourself instead of waiting for permission. The applause was deafening. After the speeches, after the champagne and congratulations, I found Dad standing near the back exit. He looked uncomfortable in his suit, out of place among the tech executives and venture capitalists. "You did it," he said. "We did it." "No, you did this. I just finally showed up. That counts for something." We stood there, father and daughter, 10 years and 1,000 miles of history between us. "Your grandfather would be proud," he said finally. "I know. He always saw it. Even when you were young, he'd tell me you were going to do something remarkable. I just couldn't see it. Why not?" Dad was quiet for a long moment. "Because I was looking at you through her eyes instead of my own." The honesty hurt. But it was the kind of hurt that leads to healing. "I'm sorry," he said, "for all of it. I know. Think we can..." He gestured vaguely. "Try again?" "We already are." Something in his face relaxed, like he'd been carrying a weight and finally set it down. The party wound down. People drifted home. I stayed late, walking through empty offices, looking at everything we'd built. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Saw the news. "Congratulations. You won." I stared at it. Knew immediately who sent it. My stepbrother reaching out from whatever corner he'd retreated to. I almost replied. Almost typed a dozen different responses. Anger, vindication, pity. Instead, I deleted the message. Because he was wrong. This wasn't about winning. It never had been. It was about refusing to disappear. Refusing to be less than I was capable of becoming. Building something that mattered instead of waiting for someone else's approval. I walked to my office window. Looked out at the city, lights stretching for miles. Somewhere out there, my stepmother was probably telling people she'd always believed in me. My stepbrother was crafting another pitch deck, another scheme, another shortcut. And I was here, standing in an office I'd earned, running a company I'd built, surrounded by people who'd chosen to believe in me when belief was all we had. The black sheep had made the Forbes list. But more importantly, the black sheep had made a life. One decision at a time, one risk at a time, one day at a time. I turned off the lights and headed home, leaving the office behind, but taking the satisfaction with me. The next morning started with coffee and 300 emails. Normal chaos. The kind of problems that come with success instead of failure. Reeves knocked on my office door around 10. "Got a minute?" he asked. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. We got an offer." I set down my coffee. "What kind of offer?" "Acquisition. Tech giant wants to buy us. Full stock deal. They're talking $12 billion. The number seemed fake. Too big to be real. $12 billion, I repeated. Your share would be around $4 billion, give or take. I laughed. Couldn't help it. "That's insane. It's real. The board wants to meet, discuss options." "What do you think?" Reeves sat down, running his hands through his hair. 2 years ago, I would have said no immediately. This is our baby, our company. But now, he gestured around. We're not the scrappy startup anymore. We're a real business. And the offer's good. Life-changing good. It's already life-changing. True. But this is generational wealth. Your kids' kids would be set. I don't have kids. You get my point. I did. The kind of money that buys freedom from everything. From worry, from work, from the grind of constant growth. Set up the meeting, I said. Let's hear them out. The pitch came 3 days later. Clean conference room. Their CEO, CFO, and head of acquisitions. They laid out vision, synergy, growth potential. All the buzzwords that actually meant something when backed by $12 billion. "We want to keep the team intact," their CEO said. He was younger than expected, sharp suit, sharper eyes. "Keep you in a leadership role. This isn't about dismantling what you've built. It's about scaling it. And if we say no," Valencia asked, "then you say no. We'll be disappointed, but we respect your choice." Professional, polite, but the subtext was clear. This was a generous offer. It wouldn't come again. After they left, the 3 of us sat in silence. "Well," Valencia said finally, "that's a lot of money." "It is," I agreed. "Are we selling?" Reeves asked. "I don't know. What's your gut say?" My gut said, take the money. My gut said you built this from nothing, and now someone wants to hand you $4 billion. My gut said prove everyone wrong one more time by cashing out while you're on top. But something else, quieter, said you didn't build this to sell it. You built it to prove a point. And the point isn't finished yet. Let's sleep on it, I said. That night I called Dad. You sound stressed, he said. We got an acquisition offer. Congratulations? I don't know if I want to sell. Dad was quiet for a moment. What does your team say? They'd probably take the money. What do you say? I say I didn't spend 10 years building this to hand it over. Then don't. It's $12 billion, Dad. And you'd have $4 billion and an empty office. Would that make you happy? I thought about the first office, the studio apartment, the ramen, the late nights and early mornings, and the absolute certainty that we were building something that mattered. No, I said, it wouldn't. Then you have your answer. The board meeting was brutal. Half wanted to sell, half wanted to hold. Numbers were thrown around, projections, risk assessments, opportunity costs. I let them argue for an hour. Then I spoke. We're saying no. The room erupted. Protests, concerns, accusations of ego. I waited for silence. I understand this is a lot of money, I said. I understand some of you want to cash out. That's fair. You've earned it. But I didn't build this company to sell it at the first big offer. I built it to last. The market won't wait, someone argued. This window closes, we might not see another one. Then we'll build through it. That's a hell of a gamble. It's the same gamble we made 10 years ago. I'm willing to make it again. The vote was close, but it went my way. We declined the offer the next morning. Their CEO called personally. That's a mistake, he said. Not angry, just certain. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. Call us if you change your mind. I won't. The press had a field day. Headlines about the founder who turned down billions. Opinion pieces about hubris and missed opportunities. Reddit threads debating whether I was brilliant or insane. My stepmother called again, left a voicemail. I saw you turn down the sale. I always knew you were stubborn. Hope you don't regret it. She wanted me to fail. Wanted validation that I'd made a mistake. Wanted proof that the black sheep should have stayed in line. I deleted the voicemail. 6 months later, we launched our biggest product yet. It changed the industry overnight. Stock price tripled. Company valuation hit $20 billion. The same tech giant reached out again, this time with $25 billion. I declined before they finished the pitch. Reeves found me after the call. You really going to keep saying no? Until someone gives me a reason to say yes. What would that be? I'll know it when I hear it. Year 12 brought new challenges. Competition, market shifts, tech evolution that threatened to make us obsolete if we didn't adapt fast enough. We adapted, pivoted, evolved, stayed ahead by refusing to get comfortable. Dad's condo became a regular spot for dinner. Once a week, sometimes more. We'd talk about business, life, regrets, building the relationship we should have had all along. Do you ever talk to her? I asked once. Your stepmother? No. She reached out a few times after the divorce. Wanted to try again. What did you say? No. Just no? Just no. Some mistakes you only get to make once. We ate in comfortable silence, the kind that doesn't need filling. I'm proud of you, he said eventually. Not just for the company, for everything, for being stronger than I was. You're doing okay now. Now. But you never needed the rescue arc. You were always the hero. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just squeezed his hand. Year 13 brought the reckoning. My stepbrother was arrested. Wire fraud, embezzlement, Ponzi scheme that had collapsed spectacularly. $30 million gone. Investors ruined. Lives destroyed. The news hit like a bomb. His face on every financial site. The details were damning. Years of lies, fabricated returns, desperate attempts to cover losses with new money. Dad called, voice shaking. Did you see? Yeah. He's asking for help. Legal fees, bail money. Are you going to give it to him? Long pause. No. He made his choices. Now he lives with them. That must be hard. It is. But it's also right. I enabled him for too long. Let your stepmother convince me he just needed more time, more chances. Turns out he needed consequences. The trial lasted 3 months. My stepbrother got 8 years in federal prison. My stepmother tried to visit me once. Showed up at the office unannounced. Security called. There's a woman here claiming to be family. Tell her I'm in meetings. She says it's urgent. Tell her to leave. I watched from my window as she stood in the lobby, realizing I wouldn't come down. Finally, she left, shoulders slumped, looking old in a way I'd never seen. I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not pity. Just the absence of the obligation that had weighed on me for years. Valencia knocked on my door. You okay? Yeah. That was her, wasn't it? Yeah. You want to talk about it? No. I want to get back to work. So we did. Year 15 hit like lightning. The company went public. IPO priced at $42. By end of day, we were trading at 93. Market cap hit 50 billion. My personal worth crossed into territory that didn't feel real. Numbers too large to conceptualize. Money that could buy small countries. Dad came to the closing bell, stood next to me as I rang it. Cameras flashing, traders cheering. Your grandfather would have loved this, he said. I wish he could have seen it. He knew. Before he died, he told me you were going to do something extraordinary. I didn't believe him. I should have. The celebration was massive. Champagne, speeches, press coverage that lasted for days. My phone buzzed with congratulations from people I hadn't heard from in years. Old classmates, former coworkers, people who'd doubted me, who'd written me off, who'd assumed I'd fail. One message stood out, from my stepmother. Congratulations on your success. I hope you remember where you came from. Family is important. I stared at it for a long moment. then blocked the number. Because I did remember where I came from, remembered every dismissal, every comparison, every time I was made to feel less than, and I remembered clawing my way out of that darkness through sheer force of will. Family is important, but so is self-respect. The years blurred after that. 20 billion, 30 billion, 40 billion, numbers that stopped meaning anything except proof that the black sheep had thrived. I bought Grandpa's house in Vermont, restored it exactly as it had been, spent summers there, away from the chaos, remembering the old man who'd believed in me when nobody else did. Dad visited once, walked through rooms full of memories. He used to sit here, I said, pointing to the porch rocker. Tell me stories about building his business from nothing, about fighting for what you believe in. He was a stubborn old man. I get it from somewhere. Dad smiled. Yeah, you do. We sat on the porch, watching the sunset over the mountains. Two people who'd taken the long way to understanding. I'm sorry, he said suddenly, for everything. For choosing her. For not protecting you. For being weak when you needed me to be strong. I know. Do you forgive me? The question hung in the cooling air. I'm working on it, I said. That's the best I can do. That's more than I deserve. We sat in silence until the stars came out. Year 20 brought reflection. The company was an empire now. Offices in 17 countries. 20,000 employees. Revenue that made early projections look like jokes. I stepped back from day-to-day operations. Let the team I'd built run things. Focused on strategy, vision, the big picture. Reeves took over as CEO. Valencia as COO. They were better at it than I was anyway. Better at managing growth, navigating politics, balancing competing interests. I became chairman. The voice that mattered but didn't need to micromanage. Freedom felt strange at first. 20 years of grinding came to an end. No more 16-hour days. No more sleeping in the office. No more constant fire drills. I started a foundation, focused on kids who got counted out, who were told they weren't good enough, who needed someone to believe in them. Scholarships, mentorship programs, seed funding for startups founded by people who looked like I had 20 years ago. Hungry, determined, disrespected. The first class of recipients sent me letters. 50 kids who got full rides to college because I remembered what it felt like to work full-time while studying, to choose between textbooks and groceries, to watch other kids get handed opportunities while you fought for scraps. One letter made me cry. You gave me a chance when nobody else would. I won't waste it. I promise. I framed it. Put it next to my college graduation photo. Evidence that the struggle mattered. That survival turned into something bigger than revenge. My stepbrother got out of prison last year, served 6 years of his 8-year sentence. I heard about it through Dad, who heard it through someone else. He's living in a halfway house, Dad said. Working in a warehouse, trying to rebuild. Good for him. He asked about you. What did you tell him? Nothing. It's not my story to share. Thanks. Do you want to see him? I thought about it. About the kid who'd gotten everything handed to him, who'd showed up drunk to my launch party, who'd assumed I'd give him a job because we shared a name. No, I said. I don't. Fair enough. My stepmother died 6 months ago. Heart attack. Quick and unexpected. Dad called to let me know. Are you going to the funeral? He asked. No. Are you? I feel like I should. Then go. But I'm not. He went. Sent me a photo afterward. Small service. Maybe 20 people. My stepbrother was there, looking lost in a cheap suit. I felt nothing. Not satisfaction. Not grief. Just the absence of something that had once taken up so much space. Dad came over that night. We ordered pizza. Watched a game. Didn't talk about the funeral until he was leaving. She asked about you. At the end. What did she say? She wondered if you'd been right. About everything. What do you think? I think she spent her life comparing people instead of accepting them. And she died alone because of it. He hugged me. Tight. The way he should have when I was a kid. I love you, he said. I should have said that more. You're saying it now. Is that enough? It's enough. Today marks 22 years since we started the company. 22 years since 3 kids in a studio apartment bet everything on an idea. The company's worth $70 billion now. More than I dreamed possible. But the number doesn't matter. Not really. What matters is that the black sheep built something that lasted. Something that proved them all wrong. Something that changed lives and created opportunities. And showed people that being counted out doesn't mean you're finished. It means you're just getting started. I'm 50 now. Gray in my hair. Lines on my face. A lifetime of decisions and consequences and hard-won wisdom. Dad's 73. Retired. Healthy. Present in a way he never was before. We have dinner every Sunday. Talk about everything and nothing. Build the relationship we should have had from the start. Do you ever regret it? He asked last week. The way things went with your stepmother and stepbrother? No. They made their choices. I made mine. But don't you wonder what would have happened if you'd helped them? Given your stepbrother a job? Helped your stepmother with her debt? I know what would have happened. They would have taken everything I offered and asked for more. Because people who think you owe them something never think you've given enough. That's harsh. That's survival. Dad nodded slowly, understanding what took him decades to learn. You were right, he said, about all of it. I was just myself. That's all I knew how to be. We finished dinner in comfortable silence. The kind that comes from years of slowly rebuilding trust. As I drove home that night, I thought about the kid I used to be. The one who slept 4 hours a night, who ate ramen for years, who was told they'd never amount to anything. I wished I could tell them it would be okay, that the struggle would be worth it, that being counted out was just the beginning of the story, not the end. But they wouldn't have believed me anyway. They would have had to live it, just like I did. The black sheep made the Forbes list, and the golden child learned that talent beats inheritance every time. I sleep well these days. In a house I bought with money I earned, surrounded by things that matter because I chose them, not because someone told me they should. The company keeps growing, the foundation keeps giving, the legacy keeps building, and somewhere, in a halfway house or a basement or wherever life took him, my stepbrother is learning what I learned 20 years ago, that you can't coast on potential forever. Eventually, you have to do the work.